back to my channel. My name is Savannah, and if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you like it. In today's video, we will continue our study in the book of Ecclesiastes. This will be part 5 of the series on this book, and I'll link parts 1 through 4 in the description. Solomon is still on his journey to find the meaning of life apart from eternity with God. He doesn't exclude God, and he's even going to give advice as it pertains to God, but it does exclude eternity. With that said, let's jump right into chapter 5, verse 1. Guard your steps when you go to the house of God. To draw near to listen is better than to offer the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know that they are doing evil. Be not rash with your mouth, nor let your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore let your words be few. For a dream comes with much business, and a fool's voice with many words. Here, Solomon gives us wise counsel for living under the sun. Even apart from an eternal perspective, he sees the value in honoring God. He points out that when we meet with God in prayer, we need to let our words be few. He says the fool is the one who talks frequently and is not quick to listen. Verse 4. When you vow a vow to God, do not delay in paying it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you vow. It is better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. Let not your mouth lead you into sin, and do not say before the messenger that it was a mistake. Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the work of your hands? For when dreams increase and words grow many, there is vanity. But God is the one you must fear. So not only should we approach God with reverence, but we should also be careful about the promises we make to God. Solomon says it's better to not make the promise at all if you're going to make light of it and end up breaking it. We need to take seriously our vows to God because he alone is the one we should fear. Verse 8. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter. For the high official is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. Here, Solomon says that it should surprise no one to see oppression and injustice in a world of bureaucracy. In these verses, he gives us a sad but realistic truth about life under the sun. Verse 10. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Sweet is the sleep of the laborer, whether he eats little or much, but the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. Solomon considers the unsatisfactory nature of wealth. He of all people knew that if you love money, there is no amount of money in the world you will be satisfied with. It's vanity. It's meaningless. Then he makes an interesting point in verse 11. He says that the more money you make, the more expenses you will have, because now everyone has their hand out. Then in verse 12, he makes the point that with more wealth comes more worrying, and therefore the rich man has a harder time getting a good night's sleep. Verse 13. There is a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil that he may carry away in his hand. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go. And what gain is there to him who toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness and much vexation and sickness and anger. Solomon now considers the uncertainty of wealth and how it can disappear in an instant through misfortune. He also recognizes that wealth is not necessarily a good thing for everyone who attains it. For some, it's their downfall, and they would have been happier with much less. And then, if you do keep your wealth, and if it does bless you, Solomon reminds us, as he did in chapter 2, that when we die, we can't take any of this material wealth with us. Naked we came into this world, and likewise we will go. Verse 18. Behold, What I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun the few days of his life that God has given him, for this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil. This is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. In these last few verses of chapter 5, Solomon leaves us with some advice. He's again telling us how to make a bad situation better. In his under the sun premise, there is no eternal meaning or true satisfaction. But he says there are two things we can do to make this life sting a little less. We can enjoy the good gifts God has given us, and we can try not to think about our fleeting and meaningless lives by staying busy. Now I want to take a moment to recognize the contrast between life under the sun versus life lived with eternal purpose and meaning in Jesus Christ. Under the sun, life is pointless. And if you've been tracking along in this series, I know you're able to see this truth. How could you not? If you don't know Christ, you are currently living out these painful truths. But if you do know Christ, and your heart has been regenerated to love what God loves and hate what he hates, then you know that you have life for the rest of eternity. You know that this is not your best life now here on earth, but that you have the rest of eternity to enjoy God and glorify him forever. Continuing on in chapter 6, verse 1. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires, yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, and he also has no burial, I say that a stillborn child is better off than he. For it comes in vanity and goes in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. Moreover, it has not seen the sun or known anything, yet it finds rest rather than he. Even though he should live 1,000 years twice over, yet enjoy no good, do not all go to one place? In verses 1 and 2, Solomon despairs over the fact that someone can gain wealth and possessions, but it can be taken in an instant and given to someone else. He says this is vanity. Then in verses 3 through 6, he reflects on how even if a man lived for 2,000 years, had all he dreamed, which back in those days was having a huge family with many descendants, Solomon says a stillborn child is better off. But why? He says because of the relentless dissatisfaction of life under the sun. Verse 7. All the toil of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. For what advantage has the wise man over the fool? And what does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the appetite. This also is vanity and a striving after wind. Whatever has come to be has already been named, and it is known what man is, and that he is not able to dispute with one stronger than he. The more words, the more vanity. And what is the advantage to man? For who knows what is good for man while he lives the few days of his vain life, which he passes like a shadow? For who can tell man what will be after him under the sun? Solomon's final words in chapter 6 point out once again that the wise man has no advantage over the fool because both have the same basic needs and both are unable to fully satisfy those needs. Then in verse 10, he makes reference to the sovereignty of God. God is in control, man is not, and there's nothing man can do to go against God because God is infinitely stronger than him. And closing out this section, he ends on a depressing note, pointing out in verses 11 and 12 the vain and fleeting nature of our lives. Well, that's all I have for today's video. I thank y'all so much for watching. I will see y'all in my next video. And as always, don't forget to thank God for waking up this morning.